Anglo Guatemalan conflict. Where that is today, and where do you see it going and resolving?
Well, as you know, this is a conflict that has bedeviled us before I was born, certainly before anyone in this room was born. I think one of the things, I always, whenever I look at the Guatemalan dispute, I try to look at it along from, I try to get some sort of benchmark so that I can go from there to show where we, to see where we are. And I like to start not with the 1859 treaty, certainly, or the Clinton-Boer treaty, or anything like that. I don't want to, get involved in that particular historical aspect of it. But okay, let's look at the 1968 Bulwer, what's the gentleman, the American lawyer,
Webster.
the Webster proposal. In 1968, he was essentially saying his model, it's not surprising, his model was that Belize should essentially become a department of Guatemala. Still maintain self-government, but your military and your foreign affairs will be run by Guatemala. This was a model, and this is not surprising because the British did this in Nicaragua, in the Bluefield regions. We met their brother Ray Hooker, where they essentially gave back. They were running a colony from Jamaica, and so to not rock the boat, it's okay, Nicaragua, you guys can have this back. And so those people that was once under British protectorate became, Nicaragua took it over, and they still maintain their self-government, but that was only paper only. So the Webster proposal I believe, came from that model there that the British did with Nicaragua and the Bluefield region and the Pacific coast there. No doubt, I don't have to tell you that was rejected violently by the Belizean population led by the late Philip Wilson and others, because there's no way we were going to, what the British were going to do was just withdraw and let Guatemala take over their spot, because we got self-government in 1964, bear in mind. So if we had went by the Webster proposal, we would have replaced one colonizer for a more violent colonizer, essentially under the 1968 Webster proposal. So let's go down to from there. Another important milestone in this struggle was 1981. Again, they repackaged the same thing, but dress it up. But the old saying, like brother Bert Tucker, the late Bert Tucker, used to always say, you could put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig, So they dressed it up in 1981, come back and said, again, it was rejected by the Belizean people. We don't want no part of that. So, okay, fine. We went on, nothing occurred, and in 1993, both parties, both the PUP and UDP, came forward with a document called the Maritime Areas Act, which basically was suggesting that we delimit our seas from 12 miles, keep it as 3 miles that we had under the British. Because in 1982, the UNCLOS, the United Nations Law of the Sea, came into being that says, as a nation, you have the right to claim 12 nautical miles from your coast. So, but we claim 12 nautical miles all the way coming down from San Pedro, all the way. But when we got down to where the Sarstoon borders with Guatemala, where the interlapping seas, we said, in difference to Guatemala, we're going to not claim it because it's disputed. Again, that term, and I'm going to get into that. We decided to hold back. And so we delimited our seas in that area out there. And in fact, we made it law. That's the law that's still on the books, the Maritime Areas Act. So, okay, good. Then we went from there. And we went to 2000, where we had the facilitation process started, where we tried to negotiate with Guatemala over this dispute. That fell apart. So we came up with, in 2005, something called Confidence Building Measure, the CBM, and the creation of to me, this is the most egregious of them all, the creation of an adjacency zone, whereby we took our borders that goes from Aquarius Torbayas up north to Gobert Falls out west to Renaissance Dios down south. We blurred the lines of our international border that was already recognized. I've been to all of these markers, so I can tell you the markers are there. And so we know how the Guatemalans interpreted their narrative is, okay, fine. Since you agreed to this adjacent line, that legitimized our claim, because you're saying if you have questions about your border, and you decide to have an adjacent line the size of Grand Cayman on both sides, from 1 kilometer those markers, 1 kilometer on both sides, and because you said that areas in dispute, you created this adjacent line. Even though your confidence building measures tells you that that doesn't mean both parties reserve the right to the way the interpretation of the CBM that we signed with them, both parties reserve the right to say that, or border say that. Of course, Guatemala has used this as a pretense for belligerence and aggressive behavior all along the adjacent line. Which brings me to the compromise in 2008. The compromise was where we agreed with Guatemala that we were going to go to the ICJ in what is called a simultaneous referendum. This was scheduled for October 6, 2013. This simultaneous referendum was supposed to take place. It never took place because Guatemala unilaterally withdrew, saying that because of our 60% threshold law, where the referendum act that says you need 60% of the voting population to agree to anything to change something. So Otto Pérez Molina at the time, who was a member of the military oligarch, who has blood on his hands, who was complicit in the genocide against the indigenous majority, was the president at the time. His people withdrew from it because they said, well, Belize, we think it's unfair that we have 50% threshold, 51% being a majority, and you need to have more than 2/3 in order for anything to be ratified. So they withdrew from it. So that left us in limbo. It's like going to the prom. You get all dressed up and then you're waiting for your date, and you're looking around and you get a call. Your date is not showing up. So that's what occurred with the compromise. So no, that's the first time, and this is not new for Guatemala. They have this history. They're serial breakers of agreement. Every time they sign an agreement with us, they always turn around and violate it in principle and in physical action. So then, which brings us now to the SAR student. And I want Belizeans to pay attention, because I hear a lot of trivial pursuit being associated with the SAR student. Oh, I heard even one minister told me, oh, we don't need to go down there, we don't want to down there, that kind of thing. No. If you look at the SAR student, I mean, if you call yourself a Belizean, your identity, your birthright, who you are as a people, as a nation, from the national anthem from Proud We 100 to Old SAR student, you can't say that anymore if you're willing to withdraw and pull back from that reality. That's like telling the United States to take us and the Rockets Red Gray out of their national anthem. Could you imagine the ludicrous of doing something like that? That's essentially what you're saying. If you're willing to admit, you're willing to suggest that the SAR student is not important to you as a people, and to your national independence and your sovereignty and your autonomy. So that's what we're trying. That's the school of thought that seems to be out there. That the SAR student, we don't want to go blah blah blah, that kind of thing. So Guatemala has annexed, and yes, I use the term annex, and occupied the SAR student. And instead of our focal point should be like, look, Guatemala, this is not we're agreeing with the narrative. It's a disputed error. How can it be a disputed error if you look on a map?
Has this incident been brought to the United Nations or any international body?
No, because one of the things, aside from the ICJ...
No, I'm referring to this specific annexation.
No, because Guatemala insistence, and we tend to adopt to that narrative that this is not, whatever forum, like for example, I understand that there was a forum in Cuba, and some international forum where the deputy prime minister brought in other proclamation. Okay, it wasn't policy that to adjust, and Guatemala essentially said, no, this is not the forum, it has to go to the ICJ. So that's been the narrative.
But my question is this. You said that Guatemala has annexed a portion of Belizean sovereign territory.
Correct.
Shouldn't this be something that the government of Belize should have taken up to the international community, to the United Nations?
No doubt about it. There's no question in my mind that this should be addressed diplomatically on that level. But every time we go to any meeting, whether it be the last time they attempt to try to come up with some kind of protocol, as they call it, for access to the SAR student, I don't know what they agreed to, because I'm not sure. I've not seen any document that says that in writing where the Guatemalan said that you don't need a buy or leave to go down there. But again, we're left in limbo where Belizeans, where the SAR student area is off limits to Belize, and I include the military too, because if they go into the river or go, in fact, we talk about the river, but don't forget the island as well, Sarstoon Island, that's on our, based on the 1859 boundaries treaty, that's on our side of the river, you know, and so we can't even go there without being, put it this way, you did not even harassed, go there without being, you know, be physically, if not physically, certainly intimidated by the GAF out there. So, but our focal point should be, look at, okay, how do we address it? My thing is, we continue to use the language of disputed. Instead of saying, look, this is a sovereign territory, Guatemala, we continue to legitimize Guatemala's persistence that this territory belongs to them because we agree it's disputed. Instead of saying, look, no, it's not disputed, this is a part of a territory, and how do we expect our friends to help us internationally when we ourselves are calling it, you know, disputed? Look at the United States, no, the U.S. State Department viewed that the Sarstoon, just like they viewed Nagorno-Karabakh, you know, as disputed area, or Kashmir. Why?
So Guatemala is shaping the narrative.
Indeed. And every time we try to bring it up in international forum, they put us in a place and say, oh, this is not the forum, the ICJ. So this is one of the things that we really need to look at as a people, as a government, because I mean, how do we get to the point? How do we get to this point where I can't even go to the Sarstoon without looking over my shoulder, without fear of, you know, the Guatemalan armed forces trying to accost me? So that is something that for me is one of the critical issue in the struggle at this point, because nowhere in the history of Belize, remember 1798 they told us that the Belizean fought, they spanned us off. Nowhere in the history of this country have you ever seen where, yes, we fought and we bicker over detail, but never once did you hear they said that Guatemala blatantly and without caring on what the international community has said that they have, that this territory, this river, or this part of the part, half of that is Belize territory, is part of it. Nowhere in the history of this dispute have you ever seen it until now. So that to me is that concerns me.
Thank you, Mr. Hubert Pipersberg. We will be having part 2 to this discussion, and you have been listening to Belizean Legend.
That can provide good paying jobs for these young men would certainly be one of the things that I would look at. Another thing is improve education. And when I say improve education, I'm not talking about just book knowledge, but you could have where they can learn skills, different skills that they can use, whether it's mechanics, whether it's learn how to fix something, car, plane, mechanic. There's so much things that can be done in terms of that particular educational field. And since we have a huge population of young females too, don't forget that they outnumber these young males. We need to do things to engage them also so that they can, you know, become productive members of society. And the third thing that I think that could be done would be to have some sort of and before I get to that point though, there are interventions that are being done. Like Dr. Gale had mentioned that the Gale study, and we've seen studies before, like the Cook report, the Gale study, where they mentioned where he tried to argue, well not argue, but he spoke about the conditions of Afro males in Belize and the violence associated with their development. That's been I want to paraphrase, but he mentioned that the environment was not conducive to raising any productive human being. That's very damning. So we need to have things where we can engage our young people, where they can become partners to the development of the country. Because right now, people just talk above their head. People just talk at them as opposed to with them. That's been their complaints. That, oh, you guys just want to tell us what to do, but you're not trying to encourage us to help us develop, bring us as part of the solution.
That's the Big A thing that you...
Correct, yeah. Like, for example, like I said, Big A had those...
The difficulty
had just to get a few acres when anybody else can come and just get hundreds of thousands of acres without batting an eye. So those are some of the things that we need to do. And for example, Diane, I want to mention Diane Finnegan. You know, she's doing excellent work in trying to, in her intervention, trying to rehabilitate and trying to encourage the self-esteem of young black males in Belize and females.
Is she swimming against the tide?
It's an uphill struggle for her. I had the opportunity to address her group, and I see there's some very talented and very enterprising youths in that country, but they're not given any vehicle to develop those skills, or that any vehicle to come to their full potential. So I think, you know, there seem to always be some sort of block opportunity for success. So those are some of those things that we need to address if we're going to develop as a nation. Because if we're saying that in the foreseeable future we're going to be a young population, then this is something that has to be addressed like yesterday. If we hope to survive as a nation going forward into the next generation.
Mr. Pipersberg, thank you, and we see you in part 2. And this is Belizean Legend.
Thank you very much.